Welcome to PWS United, a podcast for the Prader-Willi syndrome community, brought to you by PWSA USA. This podcast gives the latest news in research, advocacy, and family support by bringing together staff, volunteers, PWS treatment specialists, biotech and pharmaceutical representatives, caregivers, family members, and individuals with PWS. Our goal is to share education, awareness, and resources with those living with PWS and their supporters. Join us in our mission to enhance the quality of life and empower those affected by Prader-Willi syndrome.
We are here together, Carrie and I, for another episode of PWS United. And for this episode, we wanted to talk about our recent DC fly-in. So, Carrie, thanks for chatting with me about this.
Of course, Annie. This is one of my favorite events that we do, as I've mentioned probably 100 times at this point. But it is one of the most powerful and inspiring things that I've witnessed in my life, honestly. So I definitely saw that once again at our recent third biennial DC fly-in.
Yeah. And you've been at all three, yeah?
Mm-hmm. I have been here since the very first DC fly-in, and seeing the growth that has happened since 2022 is so incredible to witness. We see more attendees every time. We go to more congressional meetings. There's more states represented. It's just bigger numbers, increase in numbers across the board. And that was no exception this year either. So we're excited to kind of, dive in and talk all about this amazing event that just happened. So I can get us kicked off here and just give a little overview of what the DC fly-in was and all the great things that happened during it. So it took place May 4th through 6th earlier this month in Washington, D.C. We were mostly at the Yours Truly DC Hotel. That was kind of our main campus, if you will, of where our meetings happened and some trainings and some great cocktail hours and dinners. So
With a great little coffee shop attached to it
and the great
called
coffee shop.
Call Your Mother. It's really cute.
Yes, we love that, and we made Sarah's son pose in front of it as well for for fun. But it was such a lovely time and such a great venue. Again, that's where a lot of our time took place, but the main reason that we're there is to go to so many different congressional meetings. We actually went to 151 congressional meetings in 2026, which is, again, higher than any other prior year. And that takes place on Capitol Hill. So those are the House and Senate buildings. And there's so many of them, Annie. Some of them are like a mile at least away from each other. It is honestly, the DC fly-in is kind of not for the faint of heart. It's a
Right.
lot of walking. It's hours long. These meetings you have to like be on and be able to kind of speak to the sometimes questions that you're not totally prepared to answer by the congressional office staff. But most of the time, majority of the time, they are very receptive to what we're asking and make it easy on our community. So it was just a great day, the Hill Day specifically.
Started off with
I'm
some
really
rain.
proud. Yeah, we did. We
We
sure
had to
did.
stand in the rain for a minute, and we thought, why don't we ever bring umbrellas?
And I was using my little sweater to cover my head, and then it got soaking wet. And being in the rain, I was so cold and then couldn't use my sweater. So
Yeah.
lessons learned for sure.
Yes, but it's fun, the idea that maybe we'll have logoed umbrellas for the next one. We'll see.
Yes, I
We'll see.
loved that idea. That was amazing. So, on top of there being 151 meetings, we had 174 attendees at this DC fly-in and nearly 50 individuals who were living with PWS representing themselves, which is great numbers. Again, most attendees that we've had to date. We just really appreciate these people taking time out of their busy schedules, traveling from all over the country. There were 32 states represented at our fly-in and, packing the growth hormone and their loved ones' bags and their family in tow, most of them. And it's just a lot to ask of people.
Mhm.
but they seem to love their time, together and making change, using their voices to make a real change for PWS.
Yeah, I my first fly-in was shortly after I got hired. It was a few months after I got hired here, so it was my first kind of event, and it was so cool to for the you really meet individuals with PWS, to see them in those rooms sitting at the tables advocating for themselves. That was just incredible, and so it was really great to see that again. I got to experience that all over again, and I was a lot less intimidated this time. I guess I feel like it's something that people don't realize they could do, and I didn't realize I could do. I didn't realize I could just go to DC and set up a meeting with my representative and talk to them. Like, that's pretty incredible. It's a really special experience to be a part of, and it's a I think a great civics lesson for our democracy, and that more people should know about. You have access to your representatives. You can go. You have to set up a meeting. You got to do all that stuff, but you could do it.
Mhm.
You could just go talk to them as you should. They are meant to represent us. So,
Yeah.
just a little side note there.
Appreciate that. No, that's good. It's a good reminder for everyone. And we're going to continue having our DC fly-in absolutely in the future, but there's also other events throughout the year that people could go to and kind of get their feet wet. There's Rare Disease Week that happens every single February, and there's plenty others if you just look up, rare disease fly-in
Mhm.
DC fly-in events or Capitol Hill events, you'll honestly find several opportunities that you can dive
Yeah.
into if you really wanna go sooner than later, sooner than our next fly-in in
Right.
2028.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't even have to like a lot. Your representative should have an office in your
Mhm.
area. So
They
you
do.
could stay local.
You
You could
could.
go to their office. But yeah, it's such a cool experience. And so I took Freya's big sister she's 21, she'll be 22 soon she's graduating with a political science sociology degree. So that was part of the reason why I took her. Partly is that for experience, and then also as a sibling, and she's never been to anything in like the PWS community. So that was a really great experience to not only be with her because we don't live in the same area anymore, but to be with her and to see her in that capacity, like sitting there at the tables talking about these legislative asks. And then also to see her interacting with people in the community, seeing her. There's a sweet picture. I know you got one, and I have some of her talking with Pia's daughter, just like squatting down, talking to her. And
Mhm.
it was really sweet. And for her to actually talk to other siblings too, and some of the older siblings, and hear the different living situations
Mhm.
that people have. That was really great for her to hear that there's different options on how to be Freya's caretaker and guardian when she's older, which she brought up in a meeting. And I was really grateful because I've never had the official talk with her about like,
Mhm.
this is what we need this, we need you to do this. So that was really great. Anyway, it was just, that was a big highlight for me, was having Haven there and seeing her in that space and getting to meet everybody. And
Yeah. She did such an amazing job, and I watched you watch her because the 3 of us were together quite a bit. And yeah, you just were in, like, proud mama mode.
yep,
And you made sure to tell her often, and she's like, "Mom." In
that's what I
typical
got it.
daughter fashion. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. As far as the asks, I think something for people to know about when we go into the future, if they want to come to the next DC fly-in, we have these three asks, and it can be intimidating because they have like these house bill numbers and this language and these acronyms, and it can be intimidating. But what I liked about this one was that on Tuesday we had three deep dive sessions into the asks, so that people were more prepared to go into it. But I think also it is really important to remember that your story is more important. That's what you're there for, and that we give everybody the paper for the asks to hand your representative. So they can read the legislative stuff and you can be there to tell your story. But yeah, do you want to kind of give us a little overview of the asks? You explained it in our meeting yesterday. You did a really good job.
Oh, wow, thanks.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. I know my stuff, guys. So, the 3 legislative asks or legislative priorities, however you wanna call them, were what our advocates brought with them to the meetings and asked the, office staffers of their elected officials to have their senators and representatives either co-sponsor or sign on to bills, or at minimum to review the detailed documents that we left behind with every office visit. So, to go through the asks here really quick, our first ask was the FDA Rare Disease Innovation Hub, and specifically to support dedicated funding and report language in fiscal year 2027 for the Rare Disease Innovation Hub, which is an incredible resource on the national level. In our show notes, we'll make sure to have a link to the Rare Disease Innovation Hub so you can get to know it a little bit better. But it really is an incredible resource. Our second ask was the Genomic Answers for Children's Health Act. And that is bipartisan legislation that improves the diagnosis and treatment of children on Medicaid. And similarly, we'll have a document in the show notes that you can download and learn a lot more about that. And then the final ask that we got so much great feedback on from our fly-in attendees was the Keeping All Students Safe Act, or we all refer to it as CASA, that acronym that Annie was referring to. And that is legislation protecting students from the harm of seclusion and restraint in school settings. So those were the three things that we really wanted to make sure that were presented to, our elected officials and their staff members. And going into these meetings, we only have about sometimes 15, sometimes 35 minutes to discuss our stories and, give an overview of what Prader-Willi syndrome is. But we want to always try to keep just a few priorities, so it's not overwhelming. So that's what Dorothea and Elaine do before the fly-in every year, or every time we go, to make sure that there are just a few priorities. It's, easy to dissect, it's easy to understand, and it's easy asks for people to co-sponsor again or sign on to. So that's kind of an overview about that.
Yeah, that's what was cool was being in there with Haven and then, trying to do my part to explain what we're there for, and then her stepping in and being like, "Well, actually, blah," or, whatever. However she
Mhm.
said it, she was a little smarter than I was.
She is so smart. Yeah, we had Haven, Annie's daughter, do our social media takeover on Hill Day. So if you're listening and you were checking out our socials on Flying, you definitely saw her in a lot of
Yeah.
the photos and us, like sitting on the ground at the end of the day, just, exhausted, but in such a good way. You
Yeah.
might have also seen me being cuddled by two incredibly adorable
Yes.
dogs that randomly popped out of an office staff door. Such a good surprise. One of the highlights of my day, I won't lie. But yeah, I think that my takeaway is really just it's really general. It's really just seeing PWS community as a force on Capitol Hill, especially during Awareness Month. It's even makes it even more special. But I think I mentioned this in our last podcast episode, but I'm going to reiterate it because it's really is my takeaway. But walking into the different House and Senate buildings, I would run into our advocates at, like, every turn, and it just was such proof and such a reminder every time that we are a force. Like, we are almost 200 of us are here,
Mm,
and we are taking time to make sure PWS is known and heard and understood on a national scale, and we have needs that these people can help with. So yeah, it's
love
my
that.
favorite event.
Yeah, it's a great one. My takeaway is, yeah, we are a force, and really overall, like, how important and how accessible it is to participate in our democracy, and it is perhaps more important now than ever. So,
Mhm.
whether your local representative's office or you go to your state or you make it to DC, we all got to participate. Got to make those voices heard, got to protect our babies.
Hear, hear. Well said.
So, on that note, we did get to talk to a number of people. We talked to a lot of people. Sometimes we
Yes.
stuck a mic in front of their face. Sometimes we didn't. Sometimes they got a camera.
Sometimes
Sometimes,
they came to us and said, "We'd love to share our
right.
story," instead of us begging. Yeah.
We asked them kind of ahead of time, what is something that you want your representative to take home from this experience, what do you want them to take home about PWS? And then we were also able to ask afterwards some people how it went, like what is something that stood out for them. And I just want to say as a side note, a little PSA, we do want to talk to dads. We
Yeah.
promise. Dads don't necessarily want to talk to us. So if you
We
are a
did ask
dad,
many dads. We asked many dads as just a disclaimer.
so I don't know. Anything else you want to say about the event?
I just want to make sure our advocates know that we sincerely appreciate them. We couldn't do what we do without you. I know Dorothea is always saying that, so I just want to make sure it's echoed as many times as possible. So thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone out there who came or who was involved in the fly in any capacity. We really appreciate your advocacy. And I also want to let people know that we have a recap blog that you can also go and read through. It gives, all the numbers I mentioned, and it has downloadable documents for all of our asks if you want to get to know them better. And we'll have that blog linked in our show notes. And we also live streamed our policy dive sessions about the three asks. So we will have a link to our Facebook page in the show notes. And then when you go to our page, just select the Reels button. And they're one of our top, I think they're our top four or so videos. They're within that mix.
But yeah, because one thing that I think is important for people to know, if you didn't go to the fly-in, totally fine, great. But you can still advocate and you can still advocate with these specific asks. So if you want to check out the Facebook Live, the policy dive that we did, and then I'll put a link in the show notes to the blog about how to advocate from home and find your representative and let them know. See if they'll sign on. And with that, we're going to hand it over to our past selves and the and the attendees of the 2026 PWSA USA DC fly-in. Okay, so can you just say your name and your connection to the PWSA? And what do you hope your representatives go home with today? What do you want them to take home?
I'm Shaila Garg. I'm a grandmother to a 9-year-old girl with PWS. So that was the first time I ever heard of Prader-Willi was when she was diagnosed when she was 5-year-old. Ione. This is my first fly-in. Well, first of all, I want the name of Prader-Willi syndrome to be known by more people because very few people know about it. They know autism, they know other kinds of rare diseases, but they don't know about PWS. So I think the organization is doing a fantastic job of putting the name out there. So that is one thing. But I really think the Innovation Hub, the first ask, I mean, they're all equally powerful. I want children to be safe. I want the genomic test to be done because I only would have been diagnosed at birth rather than 5 years. All that is important, but I'm a scientist. So Innovation Hub for me really speaks loudly. And the funding level is ridiculous. It's $1 million. I mean, that's peanuts for these people, right? So we are only asking to increase it to 5 million, which itself is not much at all. And Innovation Hub brings together different perspectives to look at the rare diseases. And, that is the best way to solve a problem is to bring in, if there's a scientific problem, you bring in physicists, chemists, engineers, and biologists, and you look at different perspectives to understand the full possibilities of where the solution lies. So that is what should happen with rare diseases. In order to create a cure or get an FDA approval of a product, you really do need the industries, pharmacies that are manufacturers that are working on it, vaccine manufacturers, whatever, and stakeholders, other stakeholders, families that are suffering the symptoms to understand the disease first. If you don't understand the disease, you can't really cure it or at least find some interventions for it or some, way to manage it. So to me, that is a very powerful thing that FDA has created. So it's there now. Infrastructure is there. So they just need more funding and sustainability. That's my passion.
Hi, I'm Mila, and I have a 9-year-old sister living with Prader-Willi syndrome. Her name is Ione Rao. I want them to be aware of Prader-Willi syndrome, the effects that it causes, and I want them to start thinking about how they can support PWSA.
My name is Lucy Sinsheimer, and my connection to the PWS community is my daughter, Olive, who is 19 months old, lives with PWS. Since my first fly-in, I felt really proud to teach my reps about PWS. I don't think any of them had heard of it. One or two of them had Googled it before the meeting, but prior to receiving our meeting invitation, they never heard of it. And when you Google it, it is a lot of very outdated information. So it was really fun to be it was us and another family with a 3-year-old girl to be here are beautiful girls that have Prader-Willi syndrome. And they were like, wow, that is not what Google would tell you that 2 little girls with Prader-Willi syndrome look like. And it's all of our children are different. And now with all of the early treatments, we have a lot of hope. And I was really nervous, but now I feel really proud that I got to do that. And I also got to teach them about bills that they can help us with that will make things better for all of our kids. Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, I think the Rare Innovation Hub was really meaningful for us. I think the more, obviously with ViCat being the only medication out there, I think that hub would help expedite more treatments. And so I really want them to think about that one and hopefully get their bosses on top of it.
Brooke Fuller. I live in Michigan. Living with Prader-Willi and also on the Prader-Willi advisory board. Yeah, probably more of a state level, getting PWS recognized in the state of Michigan, because that's what we need. And I'm getting tired of repeating myself over and over and over and over and over and over again. And we shouldn't have to do this. It's been 60 years since the first diagnosis. I'm 52 now. I shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel time and time again.
Yeah, my name is Cindy Smolkostoso. I live in Arizona. I'm part of the board in Arizona. My son Sebastian lived 17 years with Prader-Willi syndrome. He passed away in 2023. Yeah, most of our representatives didn't know about the syndrome. So one, the knowledge of the syndrome, just the awareness of what's out there. Two, the concerns that we have with our families, getting the diagnosis early, how impactful it is to have that information early on so we can, take care of them and take the precautions needed for the syndrome. And of course, the care once they go into the school setting, to have the right setting and the right training for the caregivers when they're in that setting in the school.
My name is Tammy Penta. I'm from Arizona. I have a son, Victor, with Prader-Willi syndrome. He's on the Adult Advisory Committee, and I am an Arizona board member. I want them to see our kids. I want them to understand that we are just starting our journey, even though my son is 32 years old. Our journey involves him, but it also involves babies like Olive, who's not even 2. And I want them to see the syndrome not as rare, but understanding that everybody should know what it is so that they can have a quality of life that my son is still trying to aspire for.
My name is Arami. I'm mom to Ronan, who is 21 months old, living with PWS.
And my name is John Hackett. I am Ronan's dad, and
we're living in Chicago, and the best way to remember us is John, Arami, Ronan, so we're the Jar family. It is our first DC fly-in, and we're very excited to be here. I want the representative that I talked to, remember all today. I met the Jar family. Ronan, he's a smart, cute little boy living with Prader-Willi syndrome, and I realized that something that in my power, in our office power, there's something we could do to help with that community and then to help Ronan thrive even more.
After we speak to our representatives tomorrow, I think the number one thing that I want them to take away from meeting all of us is just that there are kids being born with rare diseases all over the country, and that the rare disease shouldn't define them, right? Like, they are capable of so much, and most of all, they're capable of leading happy, meaningful lives. And, I want our elected officials to internalize that they have the ability to really make a difference in these kids' lives. And hopefully they see it as their responsibility to do what they can.
My name is Ella Frazier, and I have a little brother named Joseph Frazier with Prader-Willi syndrome. Joseph is 14, and he's going to be 15 tomorrow, and I'm 16. I feel like just sharing our story to the representative and stuff about what it was like to grow up with a little sibling with PWSA, and just kind of have people know more about it, because people at school always ask me what PWS is, and I can explain it to them, but they still don't know what's going on and stuff, and they think, they've never heard of it before, right? And so I feel like just going out there and telling my representative what's going on and stuff, and sharing my story to kind of share the disease a little more and lessen the rarity of it.
My name is Maggie Sinise, and I am Bridget's mom here. Bridget was born with Prader-Willi syndrome, and I have been advocating for Prader-Willi syndrome for the last 5 years, I think.
My name is Bridget. I am 8 years old. I like to play and do some puzzle. We play my iPad. I am go of a movie doctor, like Dr. Meadows.
What do you want to do as that kind of doctor?
I help people with WS.
Our community has been on the Hill for years, and, we are making our presence known, and, we're now not coming into these offices having to explain what PWS is. We're able to truly, dive deep into these issues. And, I first and foremost want them to know we're not going away. That just because, we start to chip away and get some of the asks that we've asked for and, we've been pushing and advocating for, doesn't mean that we're done. That there's always going to be work that needs to be done. That, when you look at PWS, we're trying to change the future for these kids. We're trying to, make the present, able to, make these kids truly enjoy life and fulfill their deepest purposes in life. And that's going to take a lot of work, and we're not done. We are here for the long haul, and, this might be our third fly-in, but there's going to be many, many more to come, and they just need to be prepared that we're not going away, and we're always going to have something that we're pushing and advocating for, because giving, our kids with PWS the best life is our goal.
Sure. My name's Suma Honorado, and my daughter Lily, who's 9, has Prader-Willi. I think that though we're a rare disease, we're a part of a larger community, and by helping us, you help the larger community. And though we're small, we're mighty, and all of our voices matter.
Yes, hi, my name is Sarah Kasabi, and I am on the family support team at PWSA USA. I have a 6-year-old with Prader-Willi. I'm originally from Egypt. Yay, I'm excited to be here today with my kilo advocating. Well, we had some great meetings. First of all, we had 5 meetings. 2 of them were ours, and then we were kind of helping other teams, kind of their first time. I just hope that they can, we did a really great connection with them, initial connection. Some of them had really great questions. So I'm hoping that we can follow up from there and give them more information. I think that we kind of already set the grounds for them. We got them curious. Some of them already kind of knew about PWS. Some of them didn't. So I'm just hoping to keep that connection. The hardest part now is just keep the connection and keep trying, and following up with them. That's the hardest part right now. But overall, our meetings went really great.
Hi, my name is Christina. This is my son, Avir. He's almost 3 years old, and we're from New Jersey. That these are real people, that we're all deeply affected by this, whether we're the caregiver and they just see my face or they get to see Avir too. So these are the real policies impact real life, and we're living proof of it.
Hi, my name's James Toll. I'm from Yarmouth, Massachusetts, on Cape Cod, and I'm here representing PWS as a member, an advocate, and a member of the National Adult Advisory Board. I think primarily it's letting the legislators know it's like what symptoms affect us the most and how they can help make things easier. The atmosphere in the community and working with others, with PWS and without, that it's nice to be able to relate to what they're dealing with, and the various differences and symptoms. It helps, I think it helps build on the community and on the atmosphere, and it makes an impact in making it enjoyable but also educational.
I'm Henry McDonald. I live in Jaffrey, New Hampshire, and my little sister with PWS is named Josephine. I am 14. I think the thing that's going to hit them the most, hopefully, is seeing all these people, especially the ones with PWS, because they're going to be there too. They're going to be walking alongside us as we go from building to building, and it's probably going to be the hardest on them. And to just see what it's really like. And I think hopefully that's what'll get to them the most. That's what they'll go home with, is that sense of reality, and instead of just being told about it, actually seeing it and seeing how it works and what it looks like. I think that'll be what they go home with.
Okay, so I'm Jennifer Garcia, and I'm the mom of Rocco Garcia, who's 21, living with PWS, and we are from Bradenton, Florida. We do a great job of making such an impact in those offices. You know, we're so passionate, and they know that we'll be following up. There's no doubt in their mind. I could see it in their faces. They know that they're getting an email. They know they're getting a phone call. And I think they really get to put a face to the disability, a face to the ask. And, you know, the bills are just black and white on paper. They're just words to them until they can really put a face or a child's name to it. Anything that really brings to life what it does and how it impacts a whole community.
I'm Sherry Mills from Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, and I have a 7-year-old daughter named Lyra with Prader-Willi. When I go, I try to humanize the experience that, I'm not going as a lobbyist. This is not my job. I am a parent and a caregiver, which are two different jobs, but I just want them to remember my story, and while they're fighting for different policy change, that, oh, I did meet this mom and she has this daughter and these are some of the challenges that they're facing, and maybe I should or shouldn't support that. Again, we're here to help them do their job and to remember that we, people of their constituency, are, we have someone with Prader-Willi syndrome. That's why we're here.
Okay, my name is Jeannie James. My son has PWS. He's a 21-year-old living with Prader-Willi syndrome. Yeah, I've grown with him in the PWS world. Well, I would like them to go home with the understanding of the issues that we are facing in the special needs communities, in the IDD community, the lack of resources, and the lack of services we have, especially in the transition to adulthood. I want them to be able to keep that in the back of their minds when it comes to new policy makings, and hopefully support our needs.
Yeah.
Destiny Pasha, I'm a PWS education specialist. I strongly support the CASA Act. So for me, I really was able to dive in and explain the experiences I've witnessed and been involved in that is super scary for not only our community, but any individual that's in school with a disability.
community.
My name is Kristen Leidy, and I am a mother to a child living with Prader-Willi syndrome. That the rare disease community needs support and help in a lot of aspects, and we want their support.
So was there anything from today that really surprised you or like a moment that stands out?
One thing I would say is the emotion, the level of emotion of the stories. I mean, I live with Beanie's family, Ioni's family, and I know how emotional sometimes we all get. But hearing some of the other stories really touched me. I mean, one of the congressional staff said, "My God, I almost got teary listening to the story." And, I think that's the powerful effect of actually going and meeting with the congressional staff. Although we can never meet with the senators ourselves or Congress people, they were not available, obviously. But even to get to that level of the office and telling them our stories, I think that's what they're going to remember. I mean, they got the printed material on the asks. So I can go ahead and explain the innovation hub, why rare disease innovation hub. It's powerful because you're bringing, I mean, I can give all the logic of the thing, but they're going to remember the stories more.
I learned that Congressman or Mr. Raskin is a GDS alum, and I'm currently at GDS, so
Oh, nice.
that's really cool.
Okay, what's GDS?
It's Georgetown Day School.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
Middle school and high school.
Yeah, so you had a fun connection over that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Cool.
Yeah, one of the senators that we talked to said that she would look into it and some of the states, stateside, or people to ask. So she was gonna look into it.
Nice.
Definitely, it was wonderful to see the interest in learning about the syndrome. We did have some good questions about it. They were interested in learning, you know, all that it takes and understanding the impact to the siblings. For example, one specifically asked about the medication that had recently been approved in 2025 and how that's working. And that really tied into, the rare disease innovation hub and how we need more of that because that doesn't really impact all our kids. So they really made the connection with that. So that was great to see.
Today, what stood out for me was that I had two of the staffers who were totally engaged on and interested about Prader-Willi syndrome and asked lots of questions about how they could help. And then what surprised me was they were asking about at the state level because they could help us network at the state level. And I didn't expect that. So that was a pleasant outcome.
I think I was so proud of the kids. So we had three different kids in our group, Lily, and then Ginny and Paul, all representing Virginia, and they all spoke so well. And the one thing with politicians is, they're humans too. They do this on a daily basis, and talking to us kind of is boring. But as soon as you hear the kids light up, you see them light up right with them. So it was just beautiful. I think my favorite part was watching the kids and seeing them be so eloquent and talking about their syndrome and the needs that they have. So that was amazing.
Yes, actually, I am very inspired and impressed by all the like the new families and siblings and parents that are first time doing the fly in. I am so inspired and impressed by them. They spoke smoothly and they were advocating and it's their first time and some of them with all the fear and challenges, but they did great even though it was their first time. I'm so inspired and impressed by that. Really, really.
I'm an immigrant and it's my first time in the capital, and it really amazed me that we can walk into our representatives' offices and bring up our issues and ask them to support us. And that's great opportunity. That's lovely. I'm glad to be in this nation.
I guess for where I'm from, my representatives, I wasn't sure would be on board, but also my state already has some of what we were asking for. So I don't think any of it was a big surprise or a big ask of them as we're currently doing some of that. But I was very excited to know how many had parents that were teachers. So that really connected to them. And they definitely had connections. One already knew about PWS, so it was like a big chunk of our stuff had to not even be talked about, and then we were able to just move on.
Surprisingly, Pennsylvania is on our side. And I think now we're just working on that bipartisan support. So I think that's our push for Pennsylvania.
Nice. And if you could sum up PWS advocacy in one word, what would that word be?
Oh my God. I would say much needed. You know, until Ione was diagnosed, Dini and her husband did not have the support of that organization. Now I see what it's doing, and it is powerful. The families really need advocates. I mean, they can't individually accomplish much, but having the organization behind them, I think is just huge.
Oh my gosh. I feel like advocacy should be all around the world. Like we should just not give up on keep spreading the awareness amongst either officials or doctors, or like advocacy is everywhere. Even when we talk to our neighbors within our family, like it's something that we do every day, not just on the Hill, but especially on the Hill, because we can help by helping people here. We can help people all across the universe when we start doing it here. So I feel like advocacy, it doesn't just stop on the Hill. It's like really, it's our everyday life. You know, we should just keep advocating for PWS and for our kids. Right. So can you sum that up in one word? You did say one word and I gave you a whole pitch. Okay, advocacy is so hard to sum up in one word. So I would say that advocacy.
I want to say fighting.
Invigorating.
Strong. Excitement.
Hope.
Hope is there.
Hopeful. It's everything for PWS.
Thank you for listening to this episode of PWS United. If you want to learn more about Prader-Willi syndrome and how PWSA USA is making strides in advocacy, family support, and research, visit www.pwsausa.org. And while you're there, we encourage you to sign up for our Pulse email newsletter to stay informed about the latest news, resources, and events. Don't forget to subscribe to the PWS United podcast so you never miss an episode. Our team is always available to support families and their loved ones living with PWS 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You can call us at 941-312-0400 or email info@pwsausa.org. Catch a new episode next Tuesday, and until then, have a great week.